What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and welcome back to the Elektra Character review. In part 2, we're going to focus entirely on showing the character in PvP. So let's get right into the battles. For the first match, we kind of went with the bleed team. We're just going to show you how a team like this can work, but it also has its problems, especially in the high-level PvP zones. Most teams this season, at least at level 300, are running Phoenix and Cyclops, and almost every single team is running Phoenix. The good news is you can team her up with a character like Swashbuckler Nightcrawler, and all of his attacks are stealthy as well. He also has a stun which comes in very handy. On Elektra's turn, we're going to use Rain of Blood, and this is not only going to place internal bleeding and Ravaged, it's also going to put Hobbled on the enemy team. Hobbled is pretty awesome, especially against infiltrators, because it makes their attacks unable to become stealthy. With Cyclops' turn coming up, I think it's a good time to address the problem with building a bleed team, at least in the current environment. Now, you may want to use a character like X-23, and in part 1 I mentioned that there were problems with using this team. X-23 doesn't have stealthy attacks, she also doesn't have a stun, or buff removal. So when you're fighting characters like Cyclops, he's going to put Evasive Maneuvers on everyone. That gives them combat expertise, meaning that they'll be counterattacking like crazy. And with a team like Elektra and X-23, only your agent will be able to remove their buffs. So when your scroll is on cooldown or your agent doesn't get a turn for a while, your team will be very vulnerable. At least X-23, or whatever other bleed character you're using, will be. Nightcrawler gets around this for 2 reasons. 1, he has a stun, but most importantly, he's stealthy. All of his attacks are stealth. I would say that Wolverine's a pretty good team up as well. And that's just because Wolverine's a pretty tough character, and he has a stun which is stealthy. Now I know what you're thinking, Ares is an awesome team up. But there's a reason I'm not mentioning him. That's because the team up of Elektra and Ares is going to be the Team Spotlight episode for this week. So we'll be taking an in-depth look at Ares and Elektra together in that video. On Nightcrawler's turn, we're going to use Triple Threat, and that's one of my favorite abilities of his, and that's because he's capable of following up with a few ambush attacks. And he actually does for us. He ambushes Phoenix, and then we're going to see if he hits anyone else. He's capable of hitting an entire team with ambushes after a Triple Threat. The reason behind this is Triple Threat says it has Chain Teleport, so it has a 60% chance to perform a follow-up ambush against each enemy with weakened, exposed, dizzy, or slowed. So that's why we were able to gain a couple extra hits with Nightcrawler. At this point, the entire enemy team is pretty low on health, and this is perfect for Elektra, because she does have that level 9 Assassinate maneuver. The only thing is we did debate what we should do as far as her attack. Should we try to take out their agent and go ahead and let the bleed stacks take effect? Should we do a Rain of Blood and go ahead and try to take everyone down extra low and put internal bleeding on them? And really, this might have been the safest bet, but we decided to go ahead with that Assassinate maneuver. So we take out Cyclops, and then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to Phoenix. So let's hit her with another Assassinate. That's going to guaranteed finish her off. At this point, I figured that the agent couldn't possibly take out my entire team, and that's because Elektra's sitting at full health. He did, however, surprise me by using the restored Lewis machine gun. Not too many people are using this since the nerf, but after using it, he does die the bleed stacks. Now in these last 2 battles, I'm going to use Elektra along with Phoenix, and this is a really powerful team up. Instead of going for a bleed team, we kind of just went for maximum PvP effectiveness, and there are few characters better than Phoenix for this. So we're going to go ahead and use Mind Link on our agent. Then we're going to follow that up with an attack from a Psy Blast. What we want to do is we want to get a character pretty low on health, and then use that Assassinate ability. For some reason, this team that we're facing is using multiple blasters. This is a pretty awful idea in PvP. Because of that, we're going to get multiple attacks from Phoenix. So we should be able to take a character down pretty low, and possibly assassinate them with Elektra's very first attack. After we use the Shepherd's Staff, we have a pretty tough decision. Do we use the Coulson's Revenge or the Warsplitter Axe? After measuring their attacks, I decided it's best to use the Warsplitter Axe. And that's because we'll grant strength into our entire team. The enemy agent is holding the Second Amendment, and that's a really powerful weapon that stuns the entire team. And it procs quite often. So we went ahead and got her down within the assassinate range. And now we're going to use Telekinesis on Cyclops to stun him. With Elektra, we will use our level 9 on the agent. And this is where that Brutal Strike and Fatal Blow really come in handy. So there you see Fatal Blow for 9,000, and she's gone. Phoenix will not gain access to Phoenix Fire, since there's no Death and Rebirth proc. So she just uses a Psy Blast. Then Cyclops has to skip his turn. So we have this battle really well in hand. On top of that, we're going to gain attacks from Coordinated Attack, as well as the Shepherd's Staff, and then even Tactical Maneuvers. So we should be able to finish this team off before they even get another attack. I have to admit, the enemy using blasters really helps out, and it makes the battle a lot easier. But I have confidence in this team, and we're going to do another battle after this one. All we have to do is finish Cyclops off. And we would have used Assassinate, but our agent finishes it with a Brawl. Now on to the third and final battle. This is going to be with the same team up and the same exact weapons. But this time we're facing a much stronger opponent. Our agent gets to go first, and we're going to start off with the Shepherd's Staff. And I know that the hill doesn't help us this early in the battle, but it will hopefully give us an extra attack early on. We also gain Coordinated Attack. And then we're going to use the Warsplitter Axe to give our entire team strengthened. It also will neutralize buffs such as War Frenzy, so it will remove it and prevent it from being reapplied, at least until neutralized is removed from the target. On Elektra's turn, we're going to use her level 1 ability. We thought about using Rain of Blood, which would be a pretty good choice, but instead we're going to use Heavy Size on Cyclops. We want to finish him off first because he has that incapacitation from his Mega Optic Blast. As many of you know, incapacitation is really amazing this season. We weren't able to finish him, but we did drop him to 11,000 health. Then their agent has the Warsplitter Axe as well. But you'll notice that Cyclops did not gain strengthened. And that's because of that neutralized debuff. It comes in really handy, especially against a team that has Warbringer Axe. And I guess Warsplitter Axe as well. At this point it was looking pretty good for us since all of our team is pretty high in health, and we're going to get 3 attacks in a row. But actually our agent's going to skip his turn, and Elektra will instead get 2 attacks. We'll start Phoenix's turn by using Mind Link on our agent. And that's just to protect us and to gain focused. Next we're going to use Psy Blast on their agent. And we want to go ahead and apply Migraine to him. That'll weaken the damage from his next attack. Then our agent's going to skip his turn, and we'll go ahead and use Assassinate on Cyclops. And that's just to make sure that he's dead. He's at such a low health that it really doesn't matter what ability I use. And the fact that all of Elektra's attacks are stealthy meant that I could have used any ability in our arsenal. With her second attack, I did consider placing Flanked on Emma Frost. But instead I'm going to go with Rain of Blood. So let's put Internal Bleeding on both of their characters, and remember that cannot be removed. Taking out Cyclops really helped my chances out, but the match isn't entirely won. Their agent's going to use a huge hit from the Coulson's Revenge, and that will proc Death and Rebirth. Now on Emma's turn she may finish off my agent, but instead she opts to use Mental Anguish on Phoenix. Even though Phoenix has Mental Anguish on her, she does get 2 attacks, and one of them can be Phoenix Fire, so we're going to go ahead and take the damage and just attack. At this point we decided to work on their agent, so let's follow up that Phoenix Fire with a Psy Blast. And their agent takes quite a bit of damage and has a massive amount of HP. Next up is our agent's turn. We really had 2 options here. One, we could have left their agent for Elektra to finish with an Assassinate. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have done this. but instead we thought about using the Coulson's Revenge, and then finally settled on using the Warsplitter Axe. It probably wasn't the best decision, but the good news is Elektra does join in on a coordinated attack, and she finishes their agent, leaving Emma Frost by herself. For Elektra's final attack of the video, we're going to use Ancient Art that will apply internal bleeding, wide open, and flank to Emma Frost. Then on her turn, she takes damage from bleeding as well as Soulfire, and right after she attacks, she will bleed out. So that's going to be it for the Elektra review. In my opinion, she's a very strong character and viable in PvP as long as you have the right setup. The fact that all of her attacks are stealthy really helps out. You don't have to necessarily focus on the fact that she has bleeds. She's a great asset, especially since she has Assassinate, and there's so many Phoenix teams out there. The combination of her being stealthy, having Brutal Strike and Fatal Blow, can really help finish off those Phoenix teams. So I say give her a try in PvP. I think you'll like what you see. Thank you all for watching, good luck, and take care.